entities, agents, or employees.
And let's go. It's Friday, the 5th of September, 2025. And you are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We are streaming on Rumble. We are streaming on X. We are streaming on YouTube. And we're even streaming on that social media platform that begins with a F, but they censor the heck out of everything. And you can always listen to us on WYAB.com when you're not within the radio range. The radio is the mothership, and we are so grateful and thankful to have you all along today. Look, if you want to be part of the program, the number hasn't changed. The number is 601-879-0002. If you'd like to be part of our texting brigade, I'm not sure that's what I'm going to end up calling it, but it sounded good for today. If you want to be part of the texting brigade, the number is 601-879-5060. The mission here at the Andrew Gosser Show, standard. We're here to equip the saints. Who are the saints? You are, of course. When we lack wisdom and discipline, we are led astray. And let me tell you, after the last news cycle in the 24 hours, we aren't led astray. We are plumb lost. I genuinely do not know what happened to humanity. Can we just get 1983 back? We'll do a reset. We'll write some rules. We'll make sure that we outlaw the furries and the nose piercings and just all the whacked out craziness that has infiltrated our society and our culture today. There's so much going on out there. I guess the place that I really want to start is Minnesota and the shooting that happened up there. And I don't want to give this man any more time other than to say that this man had a girlfriend. And his girlfriend name was Abigail Boddick, 22, who dressed up like a furry and put on blue hair and has nose rings, like weird nose piercing, like through the bridge of the nose, and has whiskers. And I'm just sitting here looking at the pictures, and there are many, many pictures of them together where he did not look like a she. And let's just say that they had a very consensual relationship, according to the record here. And I'm reading this from the Daily Mail. And you know what? I did not put this out on my X yet. So if you want to go get more into the details of that, I'll leave that to you. But it just goes to show you that this hoax, that this illness, that they're pushing down everybody's throat, there's a lot more to it. And people are not being what they say they are. There's another story here that I want to make sure that everybody knows about. And it's from the Seattle Public School Districts. Andrew, why are you talking about Seattle? We're in Jackson. Because if you don't know about what's going on there, it's going to come here. And this is why Mississippi's getting redder, Texas is getting redder, Florida's getting redder, and states like California are getting bluer, New York's getting bluer, Illinois is getting bluer. So we as parents are the ultimate arbiters of what our child gets to learn and is not subjected to. That's our job as parents. It's just what parents are. I say it's from God, but you could just say it's from wherever you get your paternal instincts from. Seattle Public Schools works to provide a wide range of educational opportunities that reflect who students are, help them build empathy for others, and prepare them to be compassionate citizens of a diverse and changing world. There is no option to opt students out of learning about particular identities or groups of people. This guidance is reinforced by the office's Seattle Public Education, the superintendent's office, the policies of other major urban districts, including the states of California and New York, because they're so good, and other outcomes of federal cases around the country. We celebrate all students in Seattle Public Schools. Not then they have the rainbow flag, and it's just crazy. So now, not only if you send your kids to public schools, they're gonna start teaching them things that you may not want them to know. And you know what's gonna end up happening out of all this? Let me tell you, they're gonna find places like Mississippi and South Carolina. They might even find Jesus, but they are gonna get the heck up out of there. It's a madness in these places. It's there truly are no rules. Whatever goes, goes. And they will use things like other states like California and New York and other federal cases around the country, even though the culture is starting to swing back the other way, even though we are starting to see a change in what our society thinks is quote unquote normal, whatever that means. I'm not sure anybody can truly say what normal is anymore. And maybe it's always in a state of flux. There's always some shift. There is some movement. But like I said yesterday, if you took somebody from 1983 or 84 and put them today, they'd want out of here so quick. They wouldn't want to stay. There it We are just so completely beyond. You know, a couple weeks ago I was talking about watching the show the movie um back in the day with Sylvester Stallone, and Demolition Man is what it was. And and to think that they just went out and said some of the wildest and most craziest things you can think of. And you look at it today and you're like, "Yeah, that seems pretty normal. That seems almost right." We are, going down a road that is not gonna end up well for humanity, one way or the other. There are been also other arrests around the United States, one in North Carolina specifically, where they're starting to round up some of these people who have been identified as trans and wanting to hurt people, and I'm I'm sorry to say, but I think this is gonna continue to be a trend moving forward, and on my X account, someone sent me a DM and had a picture of a woman who was all tatted up and pierced up and everything, and said, "Andrew, what would you do if she showed up at your church?" And I said, "We'd all love on her. We'd probably get her a shirt, take her out to lunch, get to know her, and see how we could help and see what she was thinking." But I wonder about what other churches would do. We've all seen the video where that guy dresses up as a homeless person and is sitting out in front of the church and everybody's ignoring him, and all of a sudden he walks in and starts pulling off his costume and gives a sermon. If you haven't seen it, you should, be especially if you are a Christian, because that'll make you think about how high and mighty you truly are. Because I'm not too great for any of that. I think most of us, I would like to think, would stop it and try to help someone like that. But whenever I get shanghaied like that, I always try to talk about that because I never want to overlook anybody, and if I have a chance to stop, I will. Other stories. So yesterday we were talking about the hearing with RFK Jr., and there is so much that I want to say about that. I've got a lot of clips that I want to play from that because I feel that while I can adequately describe it to you all, hearing the interaction between a duly elected senator from any state, you can figure out which one, and RFK Jr., it's truly enlightening. And the ramifications of that hearing are already being broken down inside the US military and the Department of Defense. Yes, they're approved, but they're not required. There's a big difference now. If they're not required, does a US military serviceman have to get the shot? And then there's all these other articles that are starting to filter out now through the public media. Why don't people trust doctors anymore? Why don't people trust their private physician or what the CDC says? And they're upset at the people who are pointing all this malfeasance out. It's like a complete disconnect from reality. And I am not sure the correct way on how to lay this all out. Like, do I start with the medical stuff first and then go to the hearing? Do I start with the hearing stuff and then go to the medical stuff? But what I do know is that after the next segment, we will all have had our eyes open just a little bit more because there was an interaction between RFK and one of the senators. I believe it was Senator Johnson of Wisconsin that no one was talking about. Or if they were talking about it, I didn't see about it or hear about it. And again, it was somebody who texted it to me, which I am incredibly grateful and thankful for. And my sister from another mister just texted me from Illinois. Picture of me watching me on YouTube or wherever. That's awesome. Hi, sister. But what I'm saying is that this was so pushed down in the stack of stuff inside the media. It's absolutely dumbfounded to me how more people aren't asking more questions of the CDC, of our government, and of our doctors. Because just the fact that this could have potentially happened should tick a lot of people off, especially those of us who are not as well off, who depend on people like our doctors and our government for guidance on certain things. And like I said, starting back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and into the 90s, we were the government said it. We pretty much did it. And then we kind of got this rage against the machine. Just don't do as you're told. Go out there and do it for yourself. And we're starting to find out stuff that, whew, maybe that wasn't such a good idea to get that shot. Maybe it wasn't such a good idea to go ahead and stop the spread for 14 days. So we're going to confine ourselves. There's so much more that's coming out. We're just getting started here at the Andrew Gosser Show. You're listening to 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back. Assured, Elite Custom Construction is your solution to your next project. Call Stephen at 601-927-0552 or visit them online at elitecustomconstruction.net.
Your roof is constantly exposed to the elements, battling dirt, algae, and stains. But with Watkins Construction and Roofing Roof Wash Service, you can keep it looking like new. A proprietary rooficide treatment is EPA approved, safe, and guaranteed to prevent algae from coming back for at least 2 years. No harsh chemicals, no damage, no black streaks. Just a clean, beautiful roof that lasts. Call Watkins Construction and Roofing at 601-966-8233 or visit nomoreroofstains.com today.
The Madison Lions Club is firing up the grills for our annual Chicken Go fundraiser. Join us Saturday, October 18th at the Renaissance Bank parking lot on Highway 51 and Madison Avenue. Enjoy a delicious plate with a half chicken, 2 sides, a roll, and our famous voodoo sauce. Order online at madisonlionsclub.square.site or from any Madison Lions Club member. Proceeds support vision screenings, scholarships, and local community projects. Madison Lions Club, serving with pride and serving you.
Shooters, are you ready for something epic? Big River Ballistics is officially opening its doors on September 13th, and you're invited. Join us at Big River Ballistics, the state's premier long-range shooting complex in Morton. You don't want to miss it. Mark your calendar now for Saturday, September 13th for the Big River Ballistics grand opening in Morton. Learn more at bigriverballistics.com. See you at the range.
This copy machine has me so frustrated. I could just body slam it.
Whoa there, leave the body slamming to the pros. And leave superior high-quality office tech to the experts at Advantage Business Systems, brother.
Woo! Get it!
Never body slam your copy machine again. Visit absms.com. Advantage Business Systems, laying the smackdown on bad tech.
Hi, Kim Wade here. Are you craving a home-cooked meal without the hassle? Come over to McBee's Bar and Grill in Ridgeland for their Blue Plate lunch specials. Served up every weekday, at McBee's it's a different entree every day. Chicken spaghetti on Mondays, beef tip Tuesday, pork chop Wednesday, spaghetti Thursday, and catfish Fridays. And McBee's Blue Plate lunch comes with 2 classic southern sides and cornbread or a roll. McBee's specials are served every weekday from 11 to 2. McBee's, buzzing the res since 1982.
Oh, yeah. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. I promised that I would get to the RFK sound, and it's really just breathtaking. So without further ado, 3, 2, 1.
But talk about the corruption of science that you're having to deal with and trying to correct.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just tell you one example, and I could sit here and give you thousands. But in 2002, CDC did an internal study of Atlanta and Fulton County, Georgia children, and looked at children who got the MMR vaccine on time and compared those to kids who got them later. So in other words, kids who got them before 36 months and kids who got them afterward. The data from that study showed that Black boys who got the vaccine on time had a 260% greater chance of getting an autism diagnosis.
Think about that. Black boys who got the vaccination on time, that means at 3 years of age, roughly, 260% more likely to have autism than those who didn't. Fulton County, Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, predominantly Black neighborhood. Jackson, Mississippi, Hinds County, Mississippi, predominantly Black. The CDC had this data back in 2002. But what did they do with this data? Inquiring minds want to know.
And children who waited. The chief scientist on that, Dr. William Thompson, the senior vaccine safety scientist at CDC, was ordered to come into a room with 4 other co-authors by his boss, Frank DiStefano, who's the head of the immunization safety branch, and ordered to destroy that data. And then they published it without that fact.
ordered to destroy the data and then published the paper without that information, without that fact. You know, I don't expect you people to believe me per se, everything I say. We have a trust but verify rule around here. I want you to trust me, but I want you to verify what I say. So how can we verify this? You can go to the CDC yourself and go ask the CDC. You can go do it yourself and you can learn. But I'm telling you this, and you don't have to be in the white community or the black community or the Asian community or the Hispanic community, because ultimately we're all humans. We need to go ask these questions and talk about it with each other instead of having the government slice us all up into this group of people over here and this group of people over here, and we got these other people sitting down here. No. But it's just absolutely infuriating to me. And I would think it would be infuriating to most, but let's finish this up.
So you know that story. I know that story. And you know of hundreds of stories like that. It happens all the time. We are being lied to by these agencies, and we're going to change that right now.
And that's the clip that Fox didn't play, or if they did play it, I didn't see it. I did look for it. I normally don't watch mainstream news media. I use my search tools, Ground News, Citizens Free Press, which we're going to talk about. I also occasionally scroll through Drudge. Definitely Mississippi Today, Mississippi Free Press, Magnolia Tribune, WLBT, Dark Horse Press. Jackson Jambalaya. I go everywhere to find news. Some places you don't want to go are Eastern European and Russian news sites because they will put bots and things into your computer and then it'll hijack your computer. So don't recommend doing that. But that's just the first article there. There are all sorts of stuff that RFK said yesterday that was not absolutely broadcasted over the air, and we did not get to hear. Here's another quote.
Do you believe COVID-19 was politicized?
Yeah, the whole process was politicized. Senator, I mean, we were lied to about everything. We were lied to about natural immunity. We were lied to about, we were told again and again the vaccines would prevent transmission, they prevent infection. It wasn't true. They knew it from the start. It wasn't true because that's what the animal studies and the clinical trials showed. We were told that there was science behind cloth masks. The CDC allowed the teachers union to write the order closing our schools, which hurt working people all over the country, and then pretend it was science-based. All of these issues, and then I can show you, like, for example, Chairman Wyden was talking about me politicizing ACIP. During COVID, probably the most famous scientist on ACIP was Martin Kulldorff from Harvard, the great world-renowned epidemiologist and vaccinologist. And he criticized the COVID booster mandates. They ejected him from COVID because he wasn't in the orthodoxy. The two biggest health officials at FDA during COVID, Dr. Gruber and Dr. Krause, criticized the Biden mandates, vaccine mandate. President Biden said in August, I would never take that vaccine, the Trump vaccine. And he came in, he mandated it, and then he fired the two top health officials at FDA who said, hey, this thing has not been properly tested. So the whole process was politicized, and even today.
Isn't it funny how things that we grew up, look, I'm 53, but I can remember learning about things like herd immunity back in high school. It was just part of biology class. It was just part of the science curriculum. This stuff that RFK Jr. he's saying now is not controversial. It might be controversial to somebody who's under the age of 30 and has somehow got dumbed down by our education system. But this right here should be what drives everybody, not necessarily to the right or to the conservative point of view, but to the let's wake the heck up and see what's really going on inside our government, because they are not telling us the whole truth on what they did with COVID and vaccinations. I will make something really controversial right here. I think what happened with COVID and our government cover-up is bigger than what they're doing with Epstein. Way bigger. Because it's just not affecting one state or one city. It's not just affecting a couple thousand or a couple 100,000 people. You're talking millions, potentially billions of people being exposed to this. You know, if I have some friends who are over in the UK who listen to this, and one of my news sources is actually banned over there right now. But whether they like it or not, COVID and the scam affected England just as much as it did America. It had no borders. And you know what? The fact that we know that it came out of a lab in China, whether it was Wuhan or not, people say it might have been somewhere else. Everything I've heard says it was Wuhan. But is that going to get censored now? Just think about 3 years ago, it would have been censored on X. I couldn't have had this platform. And all this stuff is starting to come out. And now there are people who are just beyond the pale. Beyond the pale. Here's one more quick one. And then we've got to go to a break. But I have a lot more of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. that I want to play. And I am going to play a few more clips during this hour than I normally would. But I truly feel it's important that we educate each other and we hear, not from what I'm seeing and interpreting and relaying to you, but you can hear it for yourself and make your own determination.
Is Mr. Geyer a doctor?
No.
Did you know he never went to medical school?
He's not practicing medicine.
Did you know that he got caught in Maryland and was charged for practicing medicine without a medical license?
He was charged by a medical board. He sued the medical board, and the medical board was found to have acted in actual malice and was fined $2.6 million by a judge in Maryland.
And you see what the senators try to do? They try to play gotcha. RFK ain't having none of that. I honestly think RFK was made for such a time as this. He's gone through so much tragedy in his life, and he just gives absolutely zero. You can fill in the blank there. He's actually leaning in the back of his seat and pointing at the senator. And I know how he feels, man. There have been times where I've been sitting in a board meeting and just wanted to unload, but you couldn't. And then someone accidentally tees it up for you. And you see the shot. There is no danger, so you squeeze the trigger. You're listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back.
WYAB.
Fox News commentary.
A mini Erewhon is coming to NYC, but it'll cost you big bucks to enjoy. I'm Tommy Lahren. More next.
Most investments today feel like second jobs. Real estate, you're a landlord. Stocks, you're a day trader. Crypto, you're a full-time researcher. You've got a life to live. Your investment should help you live it. That's why more Americans are choosing gold. Noble Gold has helped thousands protect their future with real physical gold. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com to get your free wealth protection kit. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals, including gold, involves risks. Consult with your tax attorney or financial professional before making an investment decision.
Favorite grocery store Erewhon is making its NYC debut, sort of. It's a mini Erewhon opening as a tonic bar inside Kith Ivy, a new private wellness and paddle club in the West Village. There will be no grocery store aisles, just the famously expensive smoothies and juices. But here's the catch. You can't even walk in unless you're a member, and that'll cost you $36,000 to join, plus $7,000 a year. That's $43,000 just to sip and be seen in person. Originally, the concept was even more exclusive, but community backlash forced developers to drop the rooftop bar concept. Still, residents say the whole project feels a bit tone deaf given how many struggle to pay for food in general. But good news for peasants, you don't need a membership to at least try it. Erewhon drinks will be available for delivery if you're within range. It sounds a little ridiculous to me, but whatever floats your smoothie. I'm Tommy Lahren, and you can watch my show, Tommy Lahren is Fearless, at Outkick.com.
This Nissan was taken to a shop preferred by the insurance company. This repair took several weeks and cost over $20,000. This car came to Clinton Body Shop for a post-repair inspection. We found dangerous, substandard repairs and parts that were paid for but not installed. The insurance company bought this car from the owner. Have you used an insurance-preferred body shop? If you have, call either Clinton Body Shop for a post-repair inspection. In Clinton and in Richland, we work for you. We take pride in perfection.
It's time to put a little more sizzle in your red-hot Mississippi summer at Mazda of Jackson. Drive away on your road trip with a boost from Mazda of Jackson's $1,000 off owner loyalty reward and low 1.9% financing on a 2025 CX-90, CX-70, and the Assembled in America CX-50. And take advantage of the pre-tariff inventory before it's gone. It's time to choose Mazda. Shop online at MazdaofJackson.com or visit Mazda of Jackson, I-55 Frontage Road in Jackson.
Would you like the convenience of a sunglass clip that fits your eyeglass frame? Hi, it's Bruce from Eye Gear Optical, and I've heard you asking, so I stocked up on them. Come choose from our selection of Revolution eyewear frames with magnetic sun clips at fantastic prices. For about the same price as a regular eyeglass frame, you can have the best of both worlds while they last. Come see me and I'll customize a pair just for you at Eye Gear Optical, 2630 Highway 80 East in Pearl, and on the web at eyegearoptical.com.
Have you been injured through no fault of your own? Do you know your rights? Don Evans does. Do you really believe that the insurance company would disclose all information to you? Don Evans will make sure that you are fully informed. It costs nothing to discuss your case. From car wrecks to malpractice, Don Evans will make you and your family whole again. Don Evans won't ever charge unless he collects for you. Call Don for a free, no-obligation consultation at 601-969-2006.
Americans for Prosperity is Mississippi's and the country's leading grassroots organization dedicated to promoting economic freedom and personal liberty. Americans for Prosperity advocates for limited government, free market policies, and empowering individuals. When given freedom and opportunity, Americans are capable of extraordinary things. If you are ready to make a difference in our community and want to get involved, then visit AmericansForProsperity.org. Be a part of positive change at AmericansForProsperity.org. Paid for by Americans for Prosperity.
And we are back on the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB, where I won't let you down, but I might fire you up. And today is just going to be one of those shows. Yesterday and today. Actually, if you think about it, if you were lucky enough to tune in yesterday to hear the show, it was fire. And this is just like the continuation of that with even more data. And anytime that I get a chance to subject us to the data and allow us to make those competent decisions by ourselves, hey, we're doing good. So this is a attempted political assassination by the Senator Whitehouse, and RFK just shuts it down.
Put a hold on Biden nominees because I was getting jerked around by your bureaucracy. I'd like it to end and get some progress.
Yeah, Senator, you raised this during my confirmation hearing, and I said to you then, and you were very civil. You raised something that makes a lot of sense to the extent that we have the power to fix it at CMS. I'd like to do it. We've had the same kind of complaints from Vermont. But I said to you at that time, call me and let's come talk about this. You have my cell phone. You can call me anytime. I've never heard from you in 7 months. Call me up. I'd love to meet with you. I'll get Oz in the meeting. And, you know, what you're saying, particularly about at the end of life, it may be something we can do something about. I want to help. And, you know, let me know.
To watch everybody in the room just looking around like, what the heck is going on here? That was not on the bingo card for today. The levels are just different. This is like the English Premier League against the USL in America. It's just not even on the same level. No offense to USL. Definitely go out and check out their games. But RFK Jr. just continues to run circles around this. And that's why you're not seeing it on MSLSD, MSNBC, MS Now, or BS Forever. You won't see it there. You won't see it on CNN or ABC or NBC. I'd say CBS, but they're probably going to get sued again and lose their news license altogether. But the best, well, this is one of the best. This is Bernie just going off. And again, I'm going to play almost all of it. It's not that I want to sit here and just commentate, because I do. But sometimes when someone is assassinating their own point of view and they're digging their own grave, you just give them the shovel, you click the play button, and you take a sip of your Coke.
Every single Republican, I don't mean to be political here, Mr. Chairman, has received PAC money from the pharmaceutical industry. Are they all corrupt as well?
And I'm telling you, the American Heart Association has been co-opted by the food
Everybody but you, Senator. But you know what? When you ran for president, you know, we have a corrupt campaign finance system. Maybe you will agree with me on that. Okay, you were running for president. You got a billionaire behind it. You received $300,000 from people, not from the industry, people in it, as I did, from individuals. You corrupt. President Trump got $3 million. Every Republican got corporate PAC money for the pharmaceutical industry. Democrats as well. Everybody is corrupt, but you? Is that what we're looking at? I don't think so. And I think the issue now...
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Well, I think you do know what I'm talking about.
I don't know what you're talking about.
The issue is every time anyone disagrees with you...
Are you saying the pharmaceutical industry was supporting my presidential campaign?
I'm saying,
I don't think so.
I'm not saying that.
And if we go back and we listen to that, I have to be careful. I don't like using nicknames. I do have one for this politician, Bernie Sanders, but I will refrain from using it against my willful ways. But Senator Sanders actually called RFK Jr. senator, and RFK was not a senator. Now, maybe he was, and I don't know about it. I know that Ted Kennedy was a senator. I know RFK Sr. was I believe was a senator before he was the AG, but never was RFK Jr. a senator. And if I'm wrong, please correct me on the text line. I know you will, and I'll admit that error. But there goes Bernie again. Like anytime he can get into his script where he can point at everybody and the billionaires, it's great to watch. It's great political theater. Highly recommended. Text line said, can you retweet all these? Absolutely. As soon as we get done with the next segment, I will go through and I will retweet all these videos on my timeline for your own viewing pleasure and for your own education and analysis. And maybe you can get back with me and let me know what you think. This is, now, you want to talk about stolen elections. The Georgia senatorial election where Neil Warnock won, Reverend Neil Warnock, by the way. That was a travesty of justice, and he's on the Senate, in the Senate now, and he's on this committee, and he wants to drop some fire and some knowledge. And sometimes it's just better, like I said, to let them do the talking, and you just get out of the way and let them do the digging. This is only 21 seconds, but listen to this.
Clearly, you have an agenda. It is a threat to the public health of the American people. It's clear that you are carrying out your extremist beliefs, which is why you attempted to fire Dr.
Senator, we're the sickest people in the world. We're the sickest people on earth.
I'm speaking.
How am I a threat?
Secretary Kennedy.
How is RFK Jr. the threat
clearly-
when we're the sick? Sorry, I hit the button there again. How is Senator Kennedy, or I'm sorry, now he's got me saying it. Secretary Kennedy, the most dangerous person on earth when we are the sickest. How did RFK Jr. start this? It's what he inherited. It's what we are. You know, I have some really good friends who travel a ridiculous amount of the time. And when I say travel, I don't mean like they go to Florida and then they go to New Mexico and then they'll go to North Dakota. No, they go to Italy. They'll go to Spain. And my friend, he's like, you know what? We go overseas. We feel better. We eat healthier. We lose weight. We come back to the United States and it's just like all of a sudden we feel lethargic and slow down. Why is that? Why is it that we can import all of Europe's food into America, but there are restrictions on what Europe imports from us? It makes you wonder. It makes you think. There's one more clip that I want to play here, and I believe this is Senator Johnson, and it's 2 minutes long. But hopefully we can close up this hour strong on this. And it just kind of frames this entire argument that we've been talking about over the last 2 days about our choices with our doctors, with what we put into our bodies, what we eat, what we ingest, the medicines we take. And it's infuriating to me, and I would like to think it infuriates everybody that's listening to this, whether you're on the left, and I know you're out there because you're texting me now. And remember the rule. If you're going to disagree with me, that's great. Can you do it without cussing? But here's 2 minutes of just complete fire.
My committee's got now over 8 million pages of information. Just in the first tranche, by the way, what we discovered is that the CDC, somebody in the federal health agencies, this interagency communication, hid the signal. They admitted there was a signal on myocarditis, and they hid it. They didn't warn the public. They didn't warn doctors. So that's just one instance of corruption and lies told by the CDC. We've got a lot of.
I was going to play the thing full through. I'm going to retweet it so you can listen to it there. But we've been hearing about this myocarditis over and over again. And up until the Trump administration came into office and until RFK Jr. got approved, it was always just poo-pooed and pushed to the side. No, nothing to see here, nothing to do here. Now all of a sudden the data is there and it's coming out. Coincidence?
Of others will be rolling out. Okay, so we held our first hearing and permanent subcommittee investigation on that hiding of the signal of myocarditis. We've heard a lot of studies. Okay, as I've looked into science, it's been thoroughly corrupted. Here's data, and I'd like to enter this sheet into the record. I've been publishing this chart for, since really early 2021, when I'm on, for example, talk radio shows and they talk about this.
Maybe we ought to have Senator Johnson come on the Andrew Gosser show to give this chart. It's money.
They get deplatformed, or they were, because of all the censorship in the Biden administration.
I won't get deplatformed. Matt's awesome. WYAB is awesome. Our sponsors are awesome. They stick up for us. We say the tough things that need to be said. Sometimes it's not pretty, but it is what it is. We won't get deplatformed. Senator Johnson, come spit fire.
Here's the facts. The VAERS system that was touted in October of 2020, this great safety surveillance system on COVID. A few months later, when they didn't like the results, they started denigrating their own system. But VAERS shows that there have been 38,742 deaths reported on VAERS worldwide associated with the COVID vaccine. 38,742. 9,252 of those deaths occurred on the day of vaccination within 1 or 2 days.
That is more than a statistical blip. Say that again. 9,252 people died within 24 hours of getting the shot. And you know, I did my show prep, but I should have done it better. I should have had what the standard deviation is there. Like it's supposed to be 0.00001% chance of a adverse reaction. 9,252 people died within 24 hours of that shot. That's just insane.
Again, I agree with you. Nobody knows how many COVID deaths were because the information was completely corrupted. Nobody knows how many lives were saved by the COVID. Yeah, I think most people, okay, if you're vulnerable, raise your antibodies, reverse severity, fine. There's not any good study on that. There's just information out there, just claims being made. This is hard evidence.
And this is where I want to go with this. How many of us during our day, and like I know I've got my blue collar crew out there, guys framing out there at a job. I know you're listening to WYAB. You text me and send me pictures, and I appreciate it. How many of you have got time to sit there and watch all this and digest all this? How many of you would have known what we just heard if I didn't play it? It's like part of their game. It's part of their rubric. Just bombard them with so much stuff that they can't ingest it all. It's a brutal, deceitful game they play. I went long. You're listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back. Oh, yeah. We got to move quick. I went long in that last segment, so this one's going to be a little quick. Yesterday, we did have Senator Elizabeth Warren on. I want to play this clip real quick. This is just 18 seconds of her going off.
I know I didn't. I never promised that I was going to recommend products with which there is no indication. When you said, and I know you've taken $855,000 from pharmaceutical companies, Senator. Did you hold up a big sign saying that you were lying when you said that?
And that is Elizabeth Warren, who took $855,000 directly from the pharmaceutical companies. That's not all the other billionaires and millionaires that Uncle, I almost called him Uncle. He's not Uncle. He's Senator Bernie Sanders. Yep. This whole COVID vaccination thing is a giant nightmare. It's absolute brutal disaster. And you know, it's one of those things that we don't even know how long it's going to necessarily affect us. Will it affect us for a single generation? Will it affect us for a few generations? The truth is we don't know, but we've been subjected to all of this. And now we got to live with it. This is just the first hour. In the next hour, I promise to talk about some other local issues that are going on. We got to talk about the United States Navy going in hot on the Venezuelan drug cartels and others, and how the F-35s are leaving their home base, getting forward deployed. You're listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll see you in about 8 minutes. Yes, you are. You are tuned in to 103.9 WYAB and the Andrew Gosser Show. Today is Friday, the 5th of September, 2025, and we are streaming on Rumble, and we are streaming on X, and we are streaming on YouTube. We are streaming on that social media platform that begins with a F, but we don't like saying the name because they're all full of censorship anyways. And of course, we're streaming at WYAB.com, the mothership. Text line is firing up, and we'll get to that in a minute. But if you want to continue to text, the number 601-879-5060. Call line is open, 601-879-0002. When we lack wisdom and discipline, we are led astray. We are lost. And we got to listen to a lot of craziness in the last hour. Hopefully we'll get going down that right track. There were a couple things that I did want to talk about as far as the whole RFK trial. It's kind of hearing. It kind of has taken a life of its own. I am often surprised. Sometimes I think things that aren't going to be that big turn into enormous stories, and then things that I think are going to be really enormous and have a long leg end up not being anything at all. Yesterday, over 1,000 HHS staff members wanted RFK Jr. gone. They actually signed a petition to have RFK Jr. fired. There are more and more, and this is coming from Representative Eli Crane. If you're not following Representative Eli Crane, he is one of the few good ones that we've actually got in there. He's out of Arizona. It's just at Rep Eli Crane. And by the way, you can follow me too at Andrew Gasser, ANDREWGASSER. I should say that more often, but I don't. You know, he's one of the good guys out there. And he's got the same thought pattern that I had. Let's just take these 1,000 government workers and just move them to go get employed somewhere else line. We don't need that. I agree with him wholeheartedly that we need to get rid of those people. It's always good when you have Sink of the House following you on X. That's a hot follow right there. Where I really want to start off this hour is the UK and England, because, you know, that is where we're from. We did break away from them, but they are having all sorts of issues. One of the things I encourage everybody to do in this listening audience is find your sources of news. Don't always stick with them. Always find other places to go to. People are like, Andy, how can you go to Mississippi Today and also Magnolia Tribune? Well, that just makes me fully rounded. I don't want a blind spot. I also use Ground News, so I don't get the blind spot. But the UK has absolutely gone insane. UK woman sentenced to 31 months over tweet, freed after 9 months, says she plans to sue the police and the prosecutors. You know, that happened here in the United States. Remember the Hillary Clinton memer who ended up going to jail? It shouldn't happen, but it does. Lucy Connolly was released from prison after serving more than 9 months for inciting racial hatred. I have a hard time seeing how, I mean, it's just mind-baffling to me. Connolly accused authorities of using false information about her police interview and plans to take legal action. I hope she actually can sue the heck out of them. I don't know. After listening to some of the judges over there, the lords, doesn't look too good for this lady. And then here's another piece of news. Citizen Free Press is another place that I go for news. I like it because they're always updating. It's a more conservative Drudge report. I don't go to Drudge nearly as much as I used to. If I really want to get angry and feel the hate, then by all means, go to Drudge. You'll definitely get it there. But you can't even access Citizen Free Press on government Wi-Fi anymore over in the UK. They actually have it blocked. They provide Wi-Fi when you're on the tube and you're zipping around. It's actually pretty cool. The tube is awesome. I want to say that I love London, England. I love my soccer team over there, the Arsenal. I want to go back, but my gosh, everything that's going on over there, they're just blocking everything 6 ways to Sunday, and it's making it harder and harder to be free in this world. You know, when the internet came through, they said it's going to open up all sorts of learning opportunities, and we're going to expand our knowledge. I think there was a knowledge expansion, but now it's imploding. You know it's bad when you can't go to the Kroger or the Jewel and the mom asks a kid, "Hey, what do you want for dinner?" And the kid's got to whip out his cell phone and ask his AI what he wants. That's out there, people. There are more protests today. The kids, that kid ended up that I was talking about yesterday ended up not going to jail, but he did have to leave with his flag. Think about this. You're at a protest and you're 12 or 11 or however old he was, and he doesn't go to jail, but he has to leave because of his nation's flag. That is what is going on over there. It's absolutely insane. The last story I've got from England, and this is coming from Ground News. If you remember, there's a big group over there called Palestine Action, and they are pro-Palestinian. There are many pro-Palestinian groups that are not violent, but most are, and this is one of them that is. And they decided they were going to become the main characters of the story and break onto a Royal Air Force base and damage several Royal Air Force jets, causing $7 million worth of damage. Not only makes you kind of wonder about how the Royal Air Force Base does security. Don't try that in the United States of America. Do not. It doesn't matter what type of military installation it is. Do not try to break into a base. It's not going to end well for you. But these commandos, Palestinian commandos, broke into a Royal Air Force Base and threw a bunch of paint on some jets and caused $7 million worth of damage. Well, they've been charged with terror offenses. And now everybody's saying, "Oh, look, we're prosecuting equally." No, I don't think any pro-nationalist type of people have broken onto a Royal Air Force Base and damaged military property. Over there, we sit here and think sometimes that the United States is upside down and on its head. It's nothing like Europe is right now. And then they've got Conor McGregor, who's planning to run for office over there in Ireland. And that's the English portion of this. The other part that I wanted to talk about, or the really big story that I think will be big for this audience, is our budget and our spending habits. And I have a very active group of texters over here. Oh, I forgot to respond to these texters. I definitely want to do that before I move on. Unknown texter says, "Is the blood supply also contaminated because of the vaccine?" I don't know. That's a good question. You know, mRNA vaccines are so new, and you should really learn about them. You should read about them. I know we all don't have the time to do that, but if you can, definitely do that. And then I can't make out what this other texter just said. I'm going to let it go. But talking about the budget, the federal spending, and one of the main themes that I get from this audience is that they're tired of spending money on wars. They're tired of spending money specifically on Israel and on Europe. They just want to bring the troops home and focus on us. There is an awesome website called usaspending.gov. And you can go there and you can find out by agency how much each federal or how much each agency inside the federal government is spending. As an example, the Treasury Department, that's the biggest portion of the budget, 31.68% of the federal budget, totaling $4.856 trillion. It's hard when you think of $375,912,000 as a rounding error, but that's what it is. 4.856 trillion bucks going to the Treasury Department. And then you're like, okay, well, what does that mean? You can go here and you can sit there and say, okay, how much is going to interest? So we're paying, for instance, 14% of our total budget goes to pay interest on the debt. 22% goes to Social Security, 14% goes to Medicare, 13% goes to health, 13% goes to national defense. And then it has other breakdowns, income security, veterans, and it just has that general breakdown. But then you can go to agency, and that's where it's really incredible because you get these exact numbers. And I don't think that people who can say that they complain about whether it's spending on international aid, USAID, NASA, veterans, whatever it is, I don't think you can truly appreciate the amount of money we're spending unless you actually look at it. There's no way. And I would say this is almost like monopoly money, but I don't think that's even in the realm of possibility. Who here can truly comprehend $295,197,325 or $325,724 for the DHS, what Robert Kennedy Jr. is overlooking? It's brutal. And the numbers are getting bigger and bigger. The rounding errors are getting larger and larger. And we're just falling further and further behind. There's a lot of different organizations that I do want to look up and share with you just on the federal level. This doesn't include the state level or the local level. It makes you wonder where all this money is coming from. You're listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back. Yes, you are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. Trending now, Dearborn, Michigan. They have changed their police crest. Now it says police, Dearborn, Michigan, in Arabic. It is the first police crest or any crest, according to sources on Twitter and X, that are not in English only. I've got a picture of it on my X page. It all gets back to culture. We keep on talking about it over and over again. It's absolutely crazy. We are so far into the show and we haven't talked about Epstein, which is great. But there is this story going around yesterday. Some people said it was a great thing to have those victims come out. I thought it was more of a publicity stunt myself. But now state rep or U.S. Congressman Massey and MGT are to name clients of Epstein on the floor of the House. They say that they've got constitutional privilege to do it. I don't know. But what I do know is that this is getting dragged out longer and longer, and the longer it does, the more it irritates many of us. Just during the break, I get this text every so often. I want my pound of flesh. Well, I think it's coming, but it's going to be pounded into nothingness. It's like when you take a meat tenderizer, put it in between two pieces of plastic, and you start beating it to tenderize it. It's just been smashed to heck. Green and Massey weigh naming Jeffrey Epstein clients on the House floor. I just say do it, and then let those people have clear their names. Bill Clinton, if that's who's on there. Some of these other people. I honestly even think if these clients come out and do have their list of names and everything, after what happened in the Diddler trial, would anything really be expected to happen to the Epstein people? I don't. I think that is so far baked into everything. There's just I don't see how justice happens unless it happens like 100 years from now, and they just go back and say, this is what happened. We're going to make sure that this never happens again. Another story that's happening right now that seems to be on the minds more of Democrats and liberals than conservatives is this drone strike, which I believe was a Reaper on that Venezuelan drug boat. And all of a sudden, if you scroll liberal TikTok, which is fun to do, you will see how all of these people are asking, how do we know it was a drug boat? How do we know it was Venezuelan? And they're just asking all these questions. And they're really upset about it. Well, President Trump isn't messing around. He is deploying 10 F-35 fighter jets to Puerto Rico against the narco-terrorist organizations. And the deployment, they'll be there by the end of next week, which is pretty quick for a deployment like that. Puerto Rico is a great place to deploy. We used to go down there when we were with our F-14 squadron. We go down there, shoot missiles, bomb stuff. It was great time. You go down there for 3 weeks. You'd work for, I think, 15 or 16 days straight, get a day or two off, and then work the next 3 days and then go home. But President Trump is serious about all these drugs coming into the United States. And we just saw that, enough fentanyl to kill 70 million Americans. We all agreed that that's basically the entire west coast of America could be wiped out with just that one shipment, which makes me wonder, where is it all going? What's the ingestion rate for all that? And there's obviously good money in it because it keeps on coming through the border. It then turns out that Venezuela took 2 of its F-16s. I didn't know Venezuela had F-16s, but they must have got them a while ago. And they flew dangerously close to a U.S. warship. That's not a good idea. I'm not picking on my Navy friends, but sometimes my Navy friends don't even know who the good guys and bad guys are. Too soon? In case you don't remember, in the Red Sea just this year, actually, a U.S. F-A-18 was shot down by a guided missile cruiser. And it shot at another F-18, but he got out of the way. I wouldn't want to necessarily mess around and play this silly game. And it is true that countries in Central South America are rethinking their connections, their ties with these drug organizations, because never in the past has the U.S. truly been serious about it. Some would say that we were actually responsible for much of it. I'm not sure about how much of that is true, but the fact of the matter is we're escalating. We have a nuclear sub down there. I've never heard of a nuclear submarine patrolling the Gulf of America. It just, where all of our enemies normally would come from, they would either come from the former Soviet Union and coming over from either Northern Europe or off the coast of Africa, heading west, or the Chinese, but that would be off the coast of California, Mexico, etc. And that doesn't include all of our Coast Guard assets that are out there. And I would just say that I am quite certain that our friends in the U.S. Coast Guard are quite adept at identifying. They do it, identifying narco-terrorist vessels, boarding them, seizing them, taking control of them. They do it all the time. They've got great recruitment videos. People who think the Coast Guard is soft, I don't think you know what you're talking about. They're great men and women who do a quite dangerous job. So as the drug runners continue to run drugs through the Gulf of America to America or to Mexico to bring over land, I think you're going to see that reduce considerably. There was and unfortunately, I do not remember the name, but it was a left-leaning pundit, and I agreed with her. She said most of the drugs come through the Pacific anyways. And I think that's a valid point. And she brings it up. So are we going to put ships out in the Pacific Ocean to do interdiction missions? I say yes. I voted for that. And I think it'll be only a matter of time. And that's some crazy places where you're going through right there. You know, you're going through Coronado Island and we've got some islands out there that we use for training. You don't want to accidentally roll up on one of those islands. I'm just saying. But those are the big stories that are going on there. Finally, in the last segment, we're going to be talking about what's coming up with ICE and the deployments that have already happened, are already happening. As I was getting ready for the show today, Kathy Hochul has already come out, and ICE is already having maneuvers in the state of New York. Great Lakes Naval Base, where they do recruit training for the United States Navy, is getting ready to accept up to 250 officers. And they're getting ready to have operations in the Chicagoland area. And they're going to go around in other places. And, you know, Tom Holman, the Homeland Border Czar, has said, you know, where people work with Homeland Security and ICE, they're not going to have these types of operations where people want to be bold and talk tough about not supporting ICE. Well, they're going to do bigger operations. This weekend will be interesting in Chicago. We have an enormous Hispanic population there, and they're celebrating their Mexican Independence Day. And they're going to have parades and everything like that. And it's just going to be really interesting to see how that all works out. If they're really going to have that many people there, are they going to actively try to go to the parade? I mean, you're talking hundreds of thousands of people. I don't even know how you would begin to police that to try to arrest people. But if they've got criminals there that they want to pick up, they're going to do it. You're listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. Just got asked this question on a text. Andrew, how come we're not hearing about what's happening with ICE raids here in Mississippi? Number one, I think our attorney general and governor are friendly to ICE and the administration, and they are carefully working together with ICE. And if they can work quietly and not necessarily have to have a big show of force, show of presence, I think that's the better way to do things. Now, you go back to Chicago or New York or California or any place where they're having to have these fights. You can even look at Texas as an example when Biden was in charge. You know, in the state of Texas was trying to protect their state. Whenever there's antagonism, whenever there's conflict, you're going to hear about it. But when there's not, it's just going to kind of smooth on over. Another thing about ICE that just kind of came across my feed. Hundreds of South Koreans detained in massive ICE raid at Hyundai plant in Georgia. Roughly 475 people, according to one of the agencies involved in the operation. Holy smokes. The cost of Hyundai cars in America going up. You know, if they had one of those types of raids here in our meat processing plants, I think you would see the same thing happen. We saw that in Nebraska, right? And also, something that happened yesterday. Again, I had so much yesterday that I didn't get a chance to get to it all. The Louisiana lockup. Louisiana's version of Alligator Alcatraz is opening up. So even as Alligator Alcatraz is going through its legal battles, which, you know, it's almost standard. I don't even talk about the legal wins and losses anymore because it's not really newsworthy. We know that at the lower federal level, President Trump and the conservative point of view will lose. And then it'll get appealed and we'll get a reversal, but it goes to the Supreme Court and that's where it gets flipped. So it's not even really worth talking about so much anymore. But you know what is worth talking about? Just an interesting thing. President Trump has been challenged to a debate, ladies and gentlemen. And I know President Trump won't accept this debate, but I really wish he would. Is the debate from Hillary? No. Anybody on from the Senate or Congress? No. It is none other than Democratic mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani challenges the Donald to a debate in New York City. You can't make this up. I'm laughing as I'm reading it. It's just, former Governor Andrew Cuomo has called for 5 debates with Mamdani across New York City's boroughs, demanding answers to issues during a press conference. But nope. Zohran says, former Governor Cuomo, you're beneath my pay grade. I don't really want to debate you because I'm going to smash you. And if you look at the polls right now, you have a sitting socialist. He's not a communist, very different. A sitting socialist, roughly with 80% of the vote in New York City. That's staggering. 40 or 80% of the vote. Mamdani stated he would only participate in debates organized by the Campaign Finance Board and accused Trump of lying about the influence of the election. Meanwhile, New York Mayor Eric Adams dismissed rumors of dropping out of the race for a job in the Trump administration, stating that he's currently serving as the mayor of New York City. And there are those rumors going around. They're saying that he could become an ambassador somewhere. Politics, game of shifting alliances. Game of shifting alliances. I don't think Eric Adams, he's about as electable as Brandon Johnson is in Chicago. Those two major mega metropolises are just so far gone right now. And we had the audio on yesterday of Chicagoans who just are had enough. They want ICE to come in, and yet their elected leaders either don't want it, in the case of Chicago, or didn't want it, now do, but it's too late. This is the last story I want to bring out outside of the state of Mississippi, but it's just, it is truly incredible to me. A company was hired to go out and look for vehicles in the Chicago River. They thought they would find 3 or 4. No, they found 90. 90 vehicles in the Chicago River. I mean, how does that even, how is that not noticed over time? And they have the boats patrolling all around, and how is that not done? But you can read about it. They're not sure how many bodies are in there, and now they're having to get EPA clearance because of the potential discharge of toxic fluids, gasoline and oil from those vehicles. They say that 5 vehicles appear to be recent in nature, described as newer models. I say this because of all the problems that we have here in Mississippi. It is nothing like some of these other countries have, or some of these other places have. And we've got it good. You know, just announced another $250 million grant is coming into Mississippi for a new plant in northeastern Mississippi. We continue to grow. I think the governor's office said that we have now had, over the last 4 years, $30 billion of external investment into Mississippi. Now, people will say, I'm not seeing that. I don't see it. Some of these jobs are just coming online. Some of these are investment in energy. Some of these are investment in local colleges, which are absolutely crucial. Sometimes we say, oh, our kids got to go to state, or our kids got to go to Ole Miss, got to go to a big school. Sometimes you can go to a local college, get a trade skill, get trained up, and go on your way. Text chats coming in saying people are more concerned about the ongoing coup, against President Trump by the Justice Department. Well, I think that's going to continue until President Trump leaves, Brother Jump. They're just going to continue to delay. I mean, we've even seen it. We've reported on it, where the Supreme Court has come down and basically spanked these lower court judges, and they don't care. You go to DC right now. I forgot to talk about this too. The sandwich slinger, the guy who threw that Subway sub at the cop, they couldn't indict him on a felony. He was just charged with a misdemeanor. So if that would have been a rock, would that have been a felony then? What if it was a baseball bat? What if it was a cell phone? No, because it was a BMT foot long with extra mayo, extra mustard, salt, pepper, and oregano. Not a felony. They tried. But the people in DC in that grand jury room said, nope, not going to prosecute. And there have been like 6 or 7 of those now, where the DA there, Janine Pirro, has brought felony charges, and they've dismissed them and said, nope, you can't charge for that. I'd like to see the other cases, whether they involved assault, battery, gun crime, drugs. I mean, it's a fair question to ask. Are there some places in America that it's too far gone that even you can't get a fair jury, where you can't be viewed by your peers? I for the life of me personally, I could never see myself going after a law enforcement officer for any reason. I haven't put myself in position to have that happen, but I would think that if I threw something at a police officer, I would expect to be charged with a felony. But nope, not in Washington, D.C. in 2025. I think you would have a lot different outcome if it was here in Mississippi or anywhere in the South for that matter. Maybe outside of Atlanta and New Orleans, you'd probably end up picking up that felony. Go ahead. Oh, you're going to have to call back. You're really staticky. Callers calling in. Sometimes that happens where it just gets all staticky. Also, last story before we go to the break. Missouri has now started the process of redistricting their map. By a 10-4 vote, it is passed out of the Senate and it's now on its way to the House. I'll tell you what, Democrats, you can scream, whine, complain, and moan all you want, but this is all your fault. How you've gerrymandered over the past decade and a half, 2 decades, in the Northeast of the United States, in Illinois, Michigan, Minnesota, California, Oregon, Wisconsin, Washington, New Mexico. And now everybody's just playing by the rules you started. Now you're all upset. Unfortunately, I think this is going to, well, it's not even unfortunate. It's just going to continue. I think Indiana's quickly behind with 2 seats. Ohio's got another 4 seats. And then Florida is another 4 to 5 seats. And, you know, when Big Ron says he's going to do something, he's going to do it. You're listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We will be right back. Oh, yeah. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9. It's Friday. 2 hours go on just like that. It goes by so quick. It's incredible. I did have a texting exchange. I thought if you threw something at a police officer, it should be a felony. And this person said, nope, it should be a simple assault. That's the appropriate charge. And I would just disagree with that. But the fact is that it's not just my point of view. It's other people's point of view too. And we can talk about that. At what point does it not become a misdemeanor? Do you have to actually injure the person? I don't know. I'm not a police officer. That'd be great to have a police officer. I know somebody who would know that. It's too soon to call Chris right now, but I will ask our distinguished and honorably retired FBI agent, Chris Hinkle, what the appropriate charge should be, and I'll get back to you on Monday about that. Caller, I see you calling in, but there's really not time to be fair with another caller, so we'll have to try again next week. Try to call in before the last segment of the show. And remember, I told you all that this thing between Elon Musk and President Trump was a work. How I genuinely believe that these two had this whole Epstein thing planned out. I continue to see signs that prove my point. Elon Musk said he was invited to the White House reception, but will not attend. That's just crossing the news wire right now. I bet you within 2 years, it's all made up. That relationship will be repaired if it was ever really broken in the first place. It's already repaired now publicly, but I just am having a really hard time seeing two of the world's smartest people have such a public blow up like that. You know, one of the things that the show tries to do, even though we point out all the craziness that's going on, is try to be encouraging in upbringing. And I would just want to encourage all of you to continue to encourage one another and build each other up, just as you already are doing. You know, when I'm out in town during the weekend with my family and somebody comes and says hi, or I'm at the store and says, "Is that you, Andy?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's me. I recognized your voice." I just want to say, I really appreciate it. I think it's cool. I'm not too big of a person or think too highly of myself not to appreciate little things like that. I appreciate all the notes and texts saying that they're enjoying the show, Dee Dee, Junk, Mike, and others. I appreciate the unknown texters as well, the ones that I don't know your name, who often call and, or often text and maybe don't necessarily agree with me, but we're out there interacting. And I think we're making our community a better place. I haven't done this one in quite some time. The Sweet Bee Appreciation segment. Husbands, when's the last time that you bought your wife flowers? When's the last time you've just gone home, given your wife a kiss and said, "just because"? It's important that we do those things, men. It's critical. Sometimes our wives go do so much and we just take it for granted and we don't say thank you enough. And wives, this goes for your husbands too. But this is the Sweet Bee Appreciation segment. Sweet Bee, I love you. We'll see you all again in 46 hours. Take care, everybody. Be blessed.